Right. Hey, good evening, Rakesh. Uh,
Hey, good
Welcome,
evening.
everyone. Good evening to everyone joining in from India, and good afternoon to everyone joining in from Europe. Thank you for joining us on a Friday evening to to listen about how Tessell delivers its HADR capabilities. I would like to welcome my fellow colleague and a senior solution architect with Tessell, Rakesh. Hey, Rakesh.
Hey, Piyush, how are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. So, Rakesh, what are we going to talk about today?
Okay, so in the ongoing series that we started last month, right, with Tessell Oracle on Azure series, today we are going to talk about some advanced capability around business continuity for enterprises, right? This is very important for all Oracle enterprise customers because uh, wherever the deployment of Oracle is going to happen, this is something that allows customers to be confident about availability and resilience. So in Tessell, we have some capabilities that we have built, purpose built for high availability and disaster recovery scenarios, right? So today we are going to spend some time there, look at platform features, what exists out there, right? What are the tooling that we are using to make it happen, right? And interestingly, we're also going to spend some time on a customer case study, right? Which is based out of India, and we did a DR setup, far side DR setup for them as well. So pretty interesting things today that we have lined up for the audience.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's jump right into it. Eh, So before everyone, the people who are joining in who are not aware about Tessell, Tessell is a multi-cloud, multi-engine database as a platform which allows you to host databases at your terms with the high-speed NVMe infrastructure and excellent data management capabilities. We support all the primary databases, Oracle, MS SQL, MySQL, Postgre, Mongo, Milvus, and Timescale and ClickHouse as well. We are currently live on AWS and Azure and soon to be there on GCP as well. So without further much ado, let's jump right into uh, the key capabilities of Tessell DBaaS, right? What does it involve for Oracle database or any other databases? We allow you to have a one-click provisioning, patching, snapshots, backup, setting up HADR, which we are going to talk about today, point-in-time recovery, integration with your monitoring and your security tool ecosystem, as well as migration from your any of the source, whether you're on-prem, whether you're on any other cloud, on-prem, AWS, Azure, self-service, OCI, uh, any of the business analytics applications. We have been there, we have done it all. Right.
Yeah, so I think, and this is also in line with what we showed in the last webinar where we spoke about the introduction to the Oracle service that we have on Azure, right? And how Tessel offering basically fill in the gap, right? Where our customers are able to use Oracle as a platform, right? On Azure native infrastructure, but they also have choice for other infrastructure, like they can host it on LSV series, which is, as you mentioned, NVMe based storage, or we have recently also extended our capabilities to XRAI stack along with NetApp, right? So comprehend in terms of, as you rightly mentioned, the whole DBaaS capabilities around Oracle includes all of these things. And today we are going to zoom in on HADR. Is that right, Piyush?
That's correct. And all of the capabilities, what you mentioned, the Azure NetApp files and FSX on AWS, all our HADR capabilities are storage agnostic. So whatever you see here will be applicable across. Isn't that make it much easier for administrators, for the backup admins to be able to manage without have to worry about configuring different varieties for the different type of underlying storage?
Yeah,
Right.
and it also extends to the fact that there is an abstraction on that layer so that the consistency of using the platform comes into picture. So whether you're using NetApp as storage or a block storage, right? Or for example, for that matter, Exadata as well, you will be getting seamless experience across clouds and different kind of storage options that we provide.
Yep. So, so that's why, Tessel, as we discussed, it supports each type of application, whether you are looking at, your bronze tier applications, which are development only, or if you're looking for your applications platinum tier, where you want to have a multiple for multiple recovery points. Tessell supports them all. So what is the general backup and restore, HA strategies? They vary from application to application, right? From where you have just a single instance, your dev instance running with a single, on a single VM, and you just want to do a backup and restore in case anything happens. Tessell allows you that. Tessell also allows that whatever that single instance goes down in my but one region, and can I recover it in another region, right? Without having an HA instance. Tessell allows that, and that is without running a continuously running VM. We'll talk further as we delve deeper into this deck, right? We also Tessell also offers a warm standby. Now, what does this warm standby means? It means that in the single region, we have multiple availability zones. Tessell allows you to replicate the databases continuously over those multi-AZ zones, which are connected by a high power line with high power data bandwidth, which is less than 2 milliseconds. And so in case of a failover, in case a issue, the VM goes in AZ1, for example, in the HA instance, the service will automatically be up. It will always be in a standby mode. In few of our customers, like one of the largest, one of the top 10 largest banks in US, they want not only a multi-AZ but a cross-region DR as well. We have gone ahead and set up for that for them as well, where they have continuously not only 3 VMs running across the particular region in each availability zone, but also a cross-region DR where Tessell allows you to seamlessly fail over. All of this depends on the criticality of application, depending on the cost factors involved with each site of application. So in nutshell, Tessell, whatever your HA and DR strategies are, Tessell has a solution for you.
So Piyush, I mean, this also extends into the first couple of options, also extends into backup and recovery, right? Which basically acts as a passive solution where you want to clone databases to lower environment or, for other activities. But as we move along the right side, we have two very important HADR strategies that enterprises usually follow, right? Which is warm standby, as you mentioned, and the multi-site active configurations, right? So can you help us understand a little bit in which cases or in which customer scenarios you have found enterprises to be just fine with warm standby configuration, right? And enterprises actually needing multi-site DR setup, right? Because both of them comes with different investments, right? So in which scenarios you feel our customers would need, a warm standby or, for example, a multi-site DR configurations as well?
So it depends on your application criticality and RTO, RPO requirements. For these ones, you're right, where RTO and RPO can range into hours, we recommend using the cheaper options where you just manage that backups or snapshots to be moved into a different region or to be moved to the standard cloud storage, which Tessell takes care of it, by the way, right? And whereas on the right side are all your mission critical, survival critical applications, where you want multiple instances to be up and running always to ensure that you have data or availability and your RTO and RPO are almost near zero. This also becomes a factor, especially in the case of licensed databases. In case of Oracle and SQL Server, even if you are not using the databases, you need to pay for those licenses. So from a business perspective, it is a cost benefit analysis. In case I'm okay to have a couple of hours of downtime, and mind you, it is just downtime of the database. The data is not lost. My RPO is always zero. Then I have options where I can have just a storage level snapshot stored in one location. But in a case where I cannot afford any downtime, we have varied options. And most important thing, Rakesh, is all of this replication across availability zones, across regions, is done by database native replication. Now, native replication is very important because of the system change number, the SCN, right? For any of the databases. It ensures that your data asset compliance is always met.
Yeah. So we remain very close to the database native technologies, and we're not relying on like other few managed database offerings in cloud, right? We're relying on very pure play database native technologies, in this case data guard, right? Which helps us to actually do this in a better way, right? And all of this data guard setup, I think, as we were talking about last time as well, is set up automatically when these configurations are decided and executed in Tessell.
Yes, it's zero touch. So it is as good as toggling a button. Once you toggle, the HA setup will be done. And similarly, and as we'll see further in our slides, how do we recover from once the failover has occurred, right? That is equally important. And we'll talk about that in detail. Okay.
So just to understand a little bit more on the active setup for DR, right? So we do have customers, for example, who are sitting today on on-prem, right? Their far side is also on a different region altogether, in a different data center altogether. Suppose I have a customer which basically is looking just for the DR piece to be moved to cloud, right? And I still have the DC segments or the workload still sitting in the on-prem world, right? Um, in the Tessell world, does that configuration also works out? Are we able to just set up DR for a on-prem data center implementation?
Oh, yes, we have done that already for few of our customers in India, where because for any cloud customer moving, right, moving to cloud, the first step is always, can I run my DR on cloud? No one is going to just put out of their on-premise setup and put there. So running DR on cloud gives them the confidence about ability to run their workloads, their batch jobs, and the whole 9 yards on cloud. So for those customers, we have already set up a DR on cloud using DB native technologies.
Yeah,
Now, that's what sets us apart from other cloud vendors in the market, because since the DB native application, we allows a seamless failover, and the SCN I was talking about, seamless failback, because I need to just apply the delta of archive logs,
yeah.
which is a proven time-tested technique of replication.
And it is done exactly in the way it was done in the on-prem world. So we remain very seamless in terms of how the configuration used to be done in the earlier world. And even when we're moving to cloud, our implementations and the tooling around managing these databases remains very similar.
Yep. And it's great you brought the topic of disaster recovery. And what we have seen in our interactions with the customers is everyone uses high availability, which most of the cloud vendors provide as their DR strategy. But that's not actually the case, right? High availability is always region specific, whereas disaster recovery is, what if there is a force majeure or a natural disaster which has happened across the whole region, and you ensure your services are up and running. High availability is good when you have a smaller disruptions, like your VM went down, your one AZ went down. But what if, let's say, the whole Mumbai goes down, right? In India, how do you switch over to Hyderabad seamlessly for the
Right.
mission critical applications? That is very essential for for enterprises to consider.
Yeah, so for some customer, probably HA will be fine because they want zonal failure to be taken care of. But for customers who are running enterprises, very critical, they would want to spread this across different region altogether so that the natural disaster can also be taken care of, right?
Yes, that's correct. And we have seen customers doing that. So for for the applications which can tolerate a region failover, and they
Yeah.
for this, people go for HA. But what we recommend for any survival critical applications, that you go for a cross region DR as well.
Yeah.
Now, so for now, doubling down on what is a single region and multi-region effect.
Yeah.
Single region allows you for a stable environment, right? Whereas multi-region allows you a business continuity. You
Correct.
can optimize the performance, and a single region is always in sync. The data consistency will always be there because they are connected with a high-powered data pipeline, network bandwidth, which has less than latency of less than 2 milliseconds. That's
Yeah.
what cloud vendors comment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But uh, multi-region is for that you can't even, it is in async mode,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, that allows you to seamlessly failover and continue running the business in case a disaster happens. So there
Yeah.
are
So
multiple points of failure.
yeah. So even in case of a disaster, my application and databases continue to work as is, right? And there is very minimum disruption while we fail over from our primary environment to the disaster recovery site. And it is always advisable to have a system like that, right?
Yes, always. So whenever you want to do not only just DR drill but actually DRs, you should always have a DR in place. And then also you have multiple options with Tessell. With Tessell, you do not need to have a VM up and running. As we'll
Okay.
move further, I'll talk about a very exciting feature which Tessell has developed, the data access policy, and that will solve the customer issues by running multiple VMs, paying the licenses of it as well.
Yeah. Right.
So where does all of this magic happens? Tessell ensures your data is always available using Tessell availability machine, right? If you see here on my screen, this is the Tessell availability machine. I have two instances running in two different regions, and then
Mhm.
across region DR, which is in East US2, right? I have the same data. If you see here, there is something called as DAP, which stands for Data Access Policy. You can set up a policy where your data is seamlessly moved into UA instances, into dev instances, into QA instances at refreshes. So the whole process of replication data becomes seamless. And you can allow customers to create clones based on different personas. You can ask them to, set up a clone in their region of choice as well. So for example, someone is running an instance in Mumbai and they want to set up a policy where Rakesh
Mhm.
logs in and create a clone in Hyderabad. That can be done as well.
So this essentially allows me the consumption of snapshots using some policy. So does this also extends into, so because these are snapshots, right? So these are time-based snapshots. So if I take a snapshot at this point of time, I'll not have the additional incremental data that I have, right? To be able to actually do even a passive or a warm DR, right? Like scenario, right? So how does this capability, right, of availability machine, right? Sharing of snapshots within the region and across region, right? Helps setting up a passive DR kind of setup, which can be, for example, put in a stop mode for a particular period of time, but I want to run a drill, I can actually have a latest snapshot which is available to be able to execute a drill. So can you throw some highlight there?
Oh, yes. So that is what we have actually done with the largest state road transport company in India, right? They
Mm-hmm.
process close to 1.5 million tickets every day, and they wanted
Okay.
a warm DR. Means they wanted not only the snapshot to be moved into another region, but a point in time recovery. So
Okay.
Tessel can help you by just a policy. You can set a policy that, okay, I want my daily snapshots, and for last 24 hours, I should be able to do a point in recovery point in time recovery in my desired region. You can choose the region, you can choose the point in time recovery times, you can choose how many daily snapshots you want. So this becomes very important in the case of the widely, the ransomware attacks we are seeing, where a whole region or a whole sub region becomes unavailable. At that time, Tessel allows you to move these immutable backup copies to a different region along with the logs, ensuring you are able to serve your customers as early as possible with zero data loss.
Okay. Yeah, so this potentially saves me a lot of time actually, because if you look at how it used to be done in a very manual way, right? I think it requires a lot of work, but with these capabilities, right, where we are able to actually ship the snapshot cross region along with the additional logs with PITR capability, you essentially can actually set up a warm DR or a passive DR in the region of your choice when we share this particular snapshot with a particular user, right?
Yes. And
And then the
most,
exit of that, yeah, but please.
yeah, yep. So the most important part, you do not have to have the VM running. You
Yeah.
do not have to have the licenses for that VM, right? Now, that compute cost is one of the major reasons why customers don't go to a different region, because they are worried
Absolutely.
about how I'm for this DR, the whole cost becomes so high. With this
Yes,
data access policy and the PITR capabilities, you can just pay for the storage and have your DR in peace of mind.
exactly. And also this can also extend into scenarios where we are seeing in financial industries, right? Where there is a regulation with respect to running their whole system from a DR side for a period of 1 month in the year, right? So does this also help in those kind of scenarios, Piyush?
Yes. In the most of the financial companies and the regulatory authorities, right, they have to have a DR drill once in a quarter, right? Uh, in case of a customer who is running, let's say, a 16 vCPU machine or 32 vCPU machine in here, and do not want to pay for the licenses in the DR side. With this, he can bring down the machine here, have all the logs transferred, and start up a DR in absolutely no time, right? What it helps is make organizations compliant to the latest regulatory guidelines, ensure they do not burn their bank.
Okay, sounds interesting. Do you want to show us from where do we set this up, or you want to do it at a later point of time, Piyush?
We'll do it at we'll do the whole demo at the later point, Rakesh.
Perfect. Sounds
Advanced SLA management. So we were talking about these backups, the HA and DR. One of the most important thing in the financial industry, what we have seen is people want to retain the backups, right? They want to ensure that their data is always available. And in most of the cases in the BFSI industry, that can last as long as 7 years, right? Just the minimum. The guideline is 7 years. I've seen customers having 20 years worth of data. Now, managing that 20 years worth of data can be quite a task, right? With Tessell, you can have advanced SLA management, which is not available in any cloud, where you can set up a backup policy as per your requirement. For let's say for a platinum tier application, you want I should be able to go back and say point in time recovery of 45 days. I want weekly backups to be hold for 8 weeks, monthly backup for 12 months, and yearly backup for 7 years. All of that can be set up from the Tessell console itself. And this can be done quite seamlessly. Once you create a policy, you just need to apply the policy on the choice of databases. So you can have a different advanced SLAs from
good.
for the platinum versus gold versus silver. And one thing which Tessell shows, because what we have seen, Rakesh, in all the our FinOps analysis for the databases, people end up paying for backups, right? One of the customers we were recently working with, almost 70% of their bill was old snapshots, and no
Yes.
one knew why they exist,
Yeah.
as
Absolutely.
no one wants to delete them either. In the democratized world,
Yeah.
everyone gets worried. What happens? What if the
Yeah.
data gets deleted?
Yeah.
Here, you can manage it at a central point and ensure you are compliant to the policy while remaining true to the best financial operations. You can see at the bottom how many snapshots it will consume and how
Yeah.
much storage it will be there, giving
And,
you a much broader view of the storage. Yep.
yeah. One more thing to add here, because we also have capabilities to do database native backups, right? So the snapshot obviously cannot go to cold storage if we do it in cloud world, but because we have capabilities to do RMAN backup for long-term retention, this allows our customers to even hold or move this backups to cold storage or Glacier, right? Or in Azure, and in turn saving a lot of backup cost, right? Additionally, because these capabilities are built in the platform, Piyush, I think a lot of enterprises do use a lot of backup softwares, right, to manage long-term backup snapshots and all of that. But with Tessell, I think you get all of these features natively built in the platform itself, so you don't have to have a additional tooling just to manage backups, right? Which again reduces a lot of third-party software cost as well.
Yep. Some of these softwares can be outrightly expensive, like $2,000 per terabyte, odd. With Tessell, all of that cost gets saved, and you just pay for the whole service,
Yeah.
just one single cost. There are no additional costs which are creeping up on you.
And all of these backups, needless to say, and storage snapshots will be again right where your databases exist, right in the same subscription, same accounts, right?
Yes, it will always, the none of the data moves out of the customer data plane. So it remains within your environment, your security policies, your network policies.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How does this happen, right?
Mhm.
We were talking about all these big terms that, I'll give you HADR. Is it a very complex operation? No, it is as easy as you just go and create a replica or create a DR, right? You'll be able to do a cross-region DR with a click of a button. You'll be able to fail over to a cross-region DR with the from the Tessell console itself. You don't have to worry about what archive logged what was the SCN number when it failed over, whether the data has been copied over or not, whether the instance has been brought up properly or not. All of that is taken care by the console itself.
Yeah. So
One more,
I would disagree with the point, Piyush, that it is not easy when you do it yourself. I think with Tessel, you'll be able to do that as one click because we have been able to build that feature, right, as a complete first class feature where you don't have to do a lot of manual activity that you do for basic drill as well, right? You do have a lot of playbooks to run this drill, as you know.
yep. Like if you see one of the leading market providers which provide a DR service, but what they say is once you fail over to the DR, you have to move the entire database
Yeah.
back to primary and rebuild the primary.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
they charge for network egress cost. So imagine the cost you pay just for running a DR drill. But with Tessel, again coming back, database native. That's the key. We stay true to the database technologies. We have to just ship the delta, which makes it much faster movement, more seamless, and asset compliant.
Okay. And what is the tooling that goes behind it? So you mentioned DataGuard is one of them, but do we also use Oracle Observer to actually manage and
Yes.
look at the failovers and do the necessary switchover? So what goes behind the scenes?
Yes. So when generally people used to manage it on their own, what they used to do is they'll have just two nodes communicating with each other. But what we have seen is those are always prone to error because you never know, since the primary communication has been broken, when to switch over and which application, how the application will switch over. Tessel uses a observer node in between, which continuously communicates with both the primary and HA. In case the primary goes down,
Mhm.
within few seconds, Tessel realizes that the primary went down. It elevates my HA into primary, and it tries to heal the primary back up. Why that is crucial? Healing the primary, what we have seen, right?
Mhm.
For one of our customers we were talking to, which is a very large SaaS provider, they mentioned that DR doing a failover is okay, automatic failover is
Yeah.
fine, but just to rebuild the primary to identify till what level I have the data and what
Yeah.
level to bring back in, that would have taken them 7 days. With Tessel,
Mm.
that is zero touch.
Yeah.
No human intervention is required. Tessel agent will go in, it will bring the VM up, it will bring the database up, it will identify what archive logs are, what data is being present in the database, what data needs to be copied over from the HA instance, copy that over and wait for you to do a switch back. So you can decide to do a switch back later in the day when the business, when you are in a lean business hours as well.
Yeah. So in terms of the kind of incidents that we cover, right, as you mentioned, when the primary goes down. So if I have to zoom in and say, what all do we cover when we say that the primary instance goes down? Is it just the service level, database service level incident that we are focusing on, or in case the infrastructure itself goes down, for example, the underlying Azure virtual machine, right? So is that also covered part of the failovers that is designed as part of the platform?
Yep, it covers DB, it covers host level, VM going down, host level failures. In fact, one of the largest banks in Australia, they got just using Azure Site Recovery, it took them
Okay.
6 hours to bring the database up, right? They were on HA, but 6 hours, right? That's a long time for
Yeah.
for a banking service to go down.
Yeah.
There are a POC on Tessell. They were able to see it within minutes. That with less than a minute, your service was available.
Yeah, and I think during one of the sessions earlier in May, we did do a live demo of crashing the whole system down and then
Yep.
transitioning very smoothly to the standby DR site, right?
Yes. So, right. So as we were talking about, right, in the conventional database services or conventional system, it is just multi-AZ actually. But with Tessell, we can give you a cross-region DR. Now, one question people will ask is, all of this is fine. Can you show us, right? How does this look in an architecture diagram? Because we'll have a lot of techies on the call, right? So that's how it looks. You have a primary region where your applications are sitting. You have a region 2 where your DR applications are sitting. And you have a multi-AZ HA plus a cross-region DR setup. And all of this is connected through Tessell plus transparent application continuity. So in addition to the Tessell agent, true to the native databases, we rely on Oracle transparent application continuity feature, right? With that, we can assure a zero downtime for application even in a case of a failure. So in case your HA goes down, right? Your primary is still available. You are always connected to the primary. In case your primary also goes down, Tessell automatically realizes it, promotes the standby as primary. And one thing we missed here, Rakesh, that
Yeah.
Tessell, you always connected to the service. You're
Yeah.
not connected
Service
to
level.
an individual instance. So
Yeah.
Tessell itself manages in its own DNS server that what is the primary VM I need to go to. I'm at a service level. Let's connect to this primary.
Yeah. So the first segment is basically we are failing within the region to a different zone altogether when our standby system goes down or the primary system goes down, and then probably the next action is where the whole site, the region goes down, all the instances in the region goes down, and then we move seamlessly to the DR site.
Yes. So if you see here, we automatically move to the DR site. Over the whole process, right? There was no human intervention which was involved. All of that was seamless. All of that all of that is taken care by Tessell agent. There is zero touch which is involved. This becomes important for the customers because they say, for any time a failover happens, I need to reconfigure my application, and
Yeah,
that might be restarting of the pods itself. With
absolutely.
Tessell, because you're connecting at the service level, all the things which are happening underneath, right underneath the hood is oblivious. So
Yeah,
they are connecting to a singular endpoint from application with no change. Whatever the underlying changes are taken care by Tessell agent itself.
yeah. And again, we use Oracle native technology like TAC to make all of this happen, right? And then on the underlying layer, we do have Observer and Data Guard to at the database level to make all of this switching very, very seamless for applications to connect to.
Yeah. And it is not just true for Oracle. This we use
So,
database native for all. For
yeah,
MS SQL, we use distributed and always availability groups.
yeah,
For Postgre, we use Petroni. For MySQL, we use InnoDB clustering. So
yeah,
we use the most tried, tested, and stable tools in the market to ensure data consistency, because data is the king, right? For Tessell, the in a for a multi-AZ HADR, we have a RT of less than 3 minutes and zero RPO. For a cross-region DR, we have a RT of less than 8 minutes and less than 5 minutes of RPO.
right. So I think it's a right time to take one of the related questions, Piyush, that we've got on chat is how much time will it take to sync a huge data from DR site to primary? When it will be ready to take the request? is there any indicator? I think it depends on a lot of factors, but I want to take you to have a stab at this. And what are the other factors that we should consider based on the volume, right? Because it is an important question. Like if my failover happened to DR and I want to fail back to my primary, right? What the change in the logs that I have depends on what factors to be applied.
Yes. So there are a few factors which you need to consider. Once you have moved to the DR, what has been the data, how much archive logs have been generated? We'll bring Tessell agent will bring back the primary up. And if the archive logs generation is not huge, it will apply those archive logs immediately and bring it up. But if there is a huge amount of archive logs is generated, there is a certain latency which always happen across region. It will take some time to move, to move the archive logs back in an application of logs. From the Tessell side, especially, right, there is no delay per se. It all depends on what your application archive logs have been generated and the size of the machine, right? The archive log time it takes to apply those archive logs. And as soon as that archive logs are applied, you'll see in sync. We show you a green button. Okay, you are in sync. You can do a seamless failover.
Yeah. So, and also to add one more caveat, as you rightly mentioned, is the network bandwidth. So for example, if all of your system is in cloud, you do get guaranteed bandwidth. But for example, if you have a setup where you have the DC still on-prem and you have the DR site on cloud, then it also depends on what kind of connection you have between the cloud and on-prem system, whether it is HAVPN or the express route for that matter, right? And it does vary because the transfer of log needs to happen over the network and before it gets applied.
Yep.
Yes, Piyush.
So, delving down for all the techies out there, Tessell primary HA and DR, we are always in the max availability mode. It is in sync affirm for HA and async no affirm for DR. This is for the application performance purpose. These are the standard guidelines across. But in case a customer needs something else, or we'll be happy to work with them to understand their particular use case and decide the strategy accordingly. So
And
as
these
you
are
see,
usually the recommended.
Yep.
These are usually the recommended modes and configuration that Oracle also suggests when you're setting up these configurations for HADR.
Now, how does all of this talk about availability machine, HA capabilities? How how does it transform into real world, right? As we said, that we make best of both the worlds. We take the snapshots as well as the archive logs, right? So one of our customers in USA, a Fortune 250 company, the largest railroad company. What happened? Someone did a human mistake. They pointed it to a wrong database and dropped 14,000 tables. The database was close to 7 terabytes. And to recover it up to that point from just ARM and backup would have taken them upwards of 24 hours for a large machine as well. Tessell availability machine combined with its point-in-time recovery, we were able to do that in less than 45 minutes because we take the native cloud native backup, attached it to the VM and applied only the delta of archive logs. And that way, the customer was able to get the database up and running and get its application up and running in no time.
Yeah, so they just had to go back before the time of incident, right? In our availability machine, time machine, where you can actually select time style up till second level, and then you can just create a clone out of it, right? So it basically works in conjunction with the snapshot along with the additional log that we are shipping into your blob storage, right? And that application allows you to actually recover very quickly as compared to figuring out all the SCNs, what happened when, and then manually applying it.
Yep. And it was all UI based. Okay. No one had to go
Absolutely.
into a black box database, identify, run some complex queries and double check them to ensure they are doing it correct. They just need to go to a time, Tessell Dataflex, go to point in time recovery, select the time they wanted to go back to, and recover the environment.
Absolutely. This is a very interesting feature for sure.
Yep. So you want to talk about this case study, Rakesh?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think as we mentioned at the start of the session, I think we have an interesting case study. This is one of our customers into BFSI domain, a very large AMC. And their use case, Piyush, was basically they're currently running their whole Oracle workload deployment on-prem. So they have a site in one of the regions, and they also have the DR in a different data center altogether. Today, it is managed by a big team of resources who basically do these drills through a playbook, right? And it's all, some of the databases are deployed on rack, some are standalone databases. And the company was looking to build a DR Farsight on cloud. They wanted to get away from their existing data center, which is, assigned for DR, both for application and Oracle workloads, and move it to Azure. So that is where our engagement started. Sounded like a pretty interesting proposition. This will also help them to understand once they move to DR how beneficial cloud is for them, right? As we earlier also spoke, Piyush, that for all the enterprises, the best strategy is to move their Farsight or DR or secondary systems to cloud first, see how does it work out for them, and then finally, move your primary or DC systems onto cloud, right? So this actually pans out in that area as well. A big workload setup that they had, a big landscape. And can you go to next slide, Piyush? So what you can see here is they had a rack setup in which you had databases, Oracle workloads, which was running. And then the idea was to create a DR on cloud with Tessell, right? So Tessell for Oracle on Azure was the choice for building this DR site. They wanted to go ahead with a database as a service platform rather than again, building it from scratch as they were doing in on-prem world. And as you were mentioning, Piyush, a lot of our native capabilities revolves around using database native technology, and that's what we used here as well. Obviously, both of these different environments were connected, in this case through ExpressRoute, but even in case you are using HAVPN setup, this works exactly same, right? It's just that the speed of replication will vary a little bit here and there, but this is the setup that works when you want to set up a DR site and your primary still stays in your on-prem world. So
Yep.
yeah, go ahead, Piyush.
Yes. So the main thing is for a customer to move to cloud, it does not require refactoring of application. It did not require them to depend on a third-party tool
Yeah,
and worry about whether my data has been consistently moved or not.
correct.
Right? With native tools, they can always be sure, okay, my data is there.
Yeah. And one of the other requirements was the DR here is going to be used for a very prolonged period as well during the year, right? So they are required to run their applications and workloads from the DR side for a period of a month and half every year, right? So ensuring that the consistency is maintained between their primary data centers and cloud was very important, and Tessell actually relies on database native technologies to do that.
Yep. Rakesh, the one-click resize, because the
Oh,
license,
absolutely.
yep. Do you want
Absolutely.
to put on that?
Oh, yeah. So one more additional requirement that the customer was, as Piyush, you rightly mentioned, was, so for example, for the period of 1 month, I would need a higher shape to be able to sustain the application workloads that is coming to the database. But once that period is over, the DR is not required to be run on the same shapes, right, that I was running today. So I want to cut down by 2x or 3x, right? So on Tessell platform, the resizing feature is there. Anytime you want to basically scale up or scale down your systems, you can do that. That is true for DR side as well. So in this case, customer had a set of shapes that we suggested to be used for the period of when they're using DR. But when they're not using, they wanted to move down to the minimum shapes which are available, right? Now that is very easily possible, right? And you save on spends, infrastructure spends, as well as the licensing spends.
Great. Thank you. So that's how the replication looks like. Again, it is cloud agnostic, DB agnostic, right? How can you communicate between the various availability zones where versus various regions, or on-prem or on-prem with cloud? there is a solution for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this can also Piyush, just an extension to this use case is your primary can be other cloud as well, right? So your primary databases are sitting in, for example, on the cloud or public cloud altogether, and you want to build, because we're also seeing enterprises moving to a multi-cloud strategy, right? So in this case, probably the data center can be replaced by another public cloud, and we can set up, communication between these two clouds and still, go ahead with this kind of setup without changing much of the thing, right?
Yep. So, and you can manage all of that from a single control plane. So whether you are AWS, whether you are Azure, you can
Exactly.
manage across regions, across subscriptions from a single control plane.
Yeah.
As in our further sessions, as we move down in this webinar series, we'll actually showcase to the customers where customers are using hub and spoke, a corporate, globally distributed company is able to manage all their databases from a central location with all the controls in place. We'll talk about it in upcoming webinars as well, Rakesh.
Yeah, that sounds interesting, Piyush.
I would like to throw the floor open for any questions and any queries if anyone has.
Yeah, so one of the questions that we have is you did mention about data guard being there, right? But in the rack world, the replication works differently, right? So the question is, as respect to data guard, the same configuration is true for Oracle RAC as well. I know we don't have
Yeah.
anything as similar as RAC in cloud, but how do we are still able to manage to do that, I think.
Yes. So RAC by default is not supported or certified on any other cloud, right? Other
Yeah.
than OC. That's a limitation from Oracle. But then why do people use RAC? Is to ensure availability, to ensure that their applications are up and running. With Tessell, Oracle, using Oracle technologies with the power of Tessell, we are able to give them that, right? With no downtime in case of TAC, and most importantly, Rakesh, is RAC still has a single storage, right?
Yeah, shared storage. Yeah.
The shared storage,
Yeah.
and there can be a big debate about GC weights, what it causes to, but with Tessell works on a shared nothing architecture where whole storage data is replicated. So in case if you have a rack and the availability zone goes down, you actually go down the on cloud, you are not available. But with
Yeah.
Tessell, you can seamlessly fail over to the multi-AZ HA.
Perfect. I think that's the question that we had. Thank you so much, Piyush. I think in the next further sessions, we have some advanced concepts around multi-DB service, which is going to come around, which is again a very interesting proposition. We look forward to seeing you all again. Any final comments, Piyush?
Yes, and the next session we'll also talk about the license savings and how we
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
help you optimize the license cost for Oracle.
Okay, one question before we go. Can we have replications across multi-cloud vendors, right? Like AWS and DR in Azure. So we did briefly spoke about it. Piyush,
Yes.
you want to take that?
Yep. So if you see this instance, you put data center instead of data center, put AWS,
Correct.
right? Instead of Azure, put data center. So any cloud we can support.
Yeah, as long
There
as
are
yeah, the connectivity is there. So cross-cloud connectivity is available in Azure to AWS using ExpressRoute or even HAVPN, local area networks, gateways that you use. So once that network is set up, probably this works like any other site which needs to be connected, and registered. And once that is done, I think whether it is AWS, GCP, or Azure, this solution works exactly in a similar fashion.
all right. I think that's it. We are almost on time, and we are happy Friday to all. See you
Thank
in
you so
a
much, Piyush.
fortnight.
See you, Piyush. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.